Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jade and today I have my June wrap up for you guys, which I must say went pretty darn well. If you guys remember, I had a goal of 8 books that I wanted to read. And I admit, I did not stick with those specific 8 books. I read 2.5 of them, which is not great. But I also read 12 books this month, so I did really great if I'm going to be honest with myself. So I'm not mad about it. So let's just get into it. The first book I finished was The Raven King by Maggie Stiefvater, which is the 4th book to the Raven Boys cycle. And this was one of the best books I think I have read. It was honestly just super, super wonderful, and I really, really enjoyed it. Her world and the mystic portions of her world and the way she writes, just with every book, expanded and expanded so much, and they got more detailed and beautiful and confusing, but in a good way and really interesting. And the way Maggie Stiefvater writes is completely amazing to me, and every book in this series I think is more whimsical and beautiful than the last, and I really love that. And I really recommend this series to everyone. The Raven Boys series is about 4 main characters. One whose name is Blue, and she's from a psychic family. Everyone in her household is psychic, and ever since she can remember, whenever someone tries to just read her fortune or anything, it says that the first boy she falls in love with and kisses will die. And then she meets 3 Raven Boys, which are boys that go to this really expensive prep school, and they each kind of have their own lives, but they're best friends, and they all get entangled together in this greater plot line, and it's really wonderful, and I really recommend it. The next book I read, I picked up A Map of Days by Ransom Riggs, which is the 4th book, and I'm about halfway through that book. But I just have not been in the mood to read it. It actually put me in a reading slump. So there was a whole week and a half where I didn't read, and I still finished 12 books. So that's pretty cool. But at one of the points when I was sad about that book, I picked up The Lost Hero, because this summer I really want to do a reread of the Heroes of Olympus series. So I read this book in a day. That's going to be kind of a theme for all these books. I read them in a day, really. And I loved it. I actually think for what I'm going to do is I'm going to start doing reading vlogs of me rereading these books, because they were my favorite as my childhood. And it's kind of a series I want to start of me rereading The Hunger Games, The Maze Runner, this series, my first time reading the Harry Potter series. I just think that'd be kind of a really fun reading vlogs, but I really loved it. It was actually kind of wonderful to reread it knowing everything that happens in the series and in future series, because it really made me appreciate the characters a lot. And I already really like most of the characters, but everyone knows that Jason is kind of a character that a lot of people have hatred for, and knowing what I know about him and finding him in this book and rereading about him, I think he's a really strong character, and I feel bad for him because everyone hates him. And then I read a whole crap ton of audiobooks and I'll get to a couple. I read 3 physical books in the last couple days, but the rest of this is just gonna be audiobooks until we get to that point. But the first book is a book that I've been listening to and never finished for a long time, and that is The Caged Queen by Kristen Cercerelli. This book was an interesting experience for me, because the point of the book, sort of for the first part of the book, is the main character. So this is the 2nd book to the last Namsara. So if you haven't read that, you gotta read that first. I thought they were companion novels, and they kind of are, but not really. I wouldn't think of them as that. But, so in this series, there's dragons, and it's a polarizing court system, and there's just a lot of politics. And the main character is a queen from a different realm, and she agrees to marry a king to so that she can protect her people. and like get better rights for them because they weren't treated really well by the Underkingdom that they're technically under. And so even though she was in love with someone else, so she decides to marry this guy, and like she blames him for like an accident that happened, and there's just a lot happening. But the whole time it was really irritating because like she was just assuming things about him without really knowing him, and you could just tell she was wrong. And that's like the point of the book, is she's just assuming and assuming, and she's wrong. And like it was just really irritating to read, so I had a hard time getting through it. But I also really liked it, so it was just one of those books, if that makes sense, that irritates you but you love it. Then after that, I read The Vanishing Sarah by Maureen Johnson, which is the second book to the Truly Devious series, and oh my god, I love this series so much. This author is just so amazing. This story is so intricate and interesting, and I absolutely loved it. It's about this girl who gets into this really prestigious academy where you go to learn anything. Like if she wants to be a detective, so she's going there and specifically learning like classes that fit for what she wants to do. And there's someone who's like into robotics, and like people who are into video game design and acting, and it's just a school for kids to really follow their passion, which I think is really awesome. And then the second book continues with the mystery, because the reason she got into the school was she wants to solve a mystery that happened at the school the year it opened. The proprietor's wife and daughter were kidnapped, and no one's ever been able to solve the mystery, and she wants to solve it. So it continues with that, and my goodness, might I say, I guessed the perpetrator, and I'm happy with myself. But there's a lot more to the mystery than just that, and I can tell that there's going to be a lot more to it, so that's going to be interesting in the last book to really uncover what else is there. And then the next book I read was One Dark Throne by Kendara Blake. Might I say I read both of these in one day, so I had an 8-hour shift in work and just listened to audiobooks. But it's the second book to the Three Dark Crown series, and I have I'm really proud of myself this month because I continued with so many series. Like I read so many sequels, and I think that's really cool. But this was really good, actually. I liked the first one, but didn't enjoy it all that much, and I liked this one a lot more. And what I really appreciate about the series is the side characters they're not really side characters. There's like the three main characters, but also they have friends and family that are a part of their lives that also have their own plotline. And I just really liked all the characters in this book, and I thought it was all really good. But oof, that ending is upsetting. It's an upsetting book, gotta say. I really did like the character development in this one, though. I thought that was pretty interesting to see. And then the next book I read was Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. I'm not sure. But this is just like a brief history of humankind. So he goes through important innovations that humans created that led to where we are today. Like he talks about the farming, the roles men and women play in society, technology, and like everything like that. And it's just really, really interesting. I really enjoyed it. Like if any of you are into anthropology or like to learn about history or why things are the way they are, I really recommend this book because it really actually explains why society functions the way it does, which is why it was so interesting. And then I read probably my favorite book of all of them. I have two favorite books. We'll get to the next one, but this is a really good book, and that's With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. It's so good. It's about a girl who is in high school, and she has a daughter, and it's dealing with her struggles of being a high school student, but also having a daughter, and she ends up joining this cooking class because she's always loved cooking. Her cooking almost feels like magical to other people, and the class and the relationship with her teacher makes her look at herself and the way she does things and makes her think things through differently, and I really loved that. I really loved this book because it really showed you what it's like to have a child when you're young and like to deal with everything, and that's not something we really see in books, and it was just so beautifully written and it was so interesting, and I didn't stop listening to it. I really, really loved it. 5 out of 5 stars. I really recommend it to everyone. I know a lot of people have been reading it and everyone's been loving it because it's just really well written, and I really think you should also read it. Then the next one I read was Heretics Anonymous. I can't say that word, by the way, by Katie Henry. This book is about a boy that gets sent to a Catholic school when he's an atheist. He ends up getting involved in this group called Heretics Anonymous, which are other people in the school that don't follow the Catholic belief, or that do, but think that certain things need to be changed, and it's a place where they can complain about what the school is like doing. And he ends up stirring up some trouble when he decides to take things public and take the problems that are happening in the school so that everyone else can see them as well. And I think it's really interesting to see what it's just a good story. It's like a fun time, and it does have some it talks about a lot of interesting things. I don't really know how to describe it. I think it's more like a for fun story that does talk about some serious subjects, but I enjoyed it a lot. It was pretty good. All the characters were really interesting and fun, and I actually learned a little bit about being Catholic, so that was kind of cool too. And then the last audiobook I listened to was The Music of What Happens by Bill Kongsberg. This book is it's from the point of view of two boys that live in Arizona, and one of them, his dad passed away, and he and his mom are going to lose their house, and the only way they can save it is by opening up his old food truck. And the other is the point of view of another boy who kind of got in trouble and has to get a summer job, and he ends up working for the food truck, and their paths cross, and you learn a lot about their lives, and there is kind of a trigger warning for sexual assault in it, and that I think added a lot to the book because it explored, without wanting to give too much away, kind of what it's like for a guy to go through sexual assault, because that's not a subject that's talked about a lot. But it also was just a really just nice contemporary read. I never find contemporaries to be something I'll read again and again, I'll love, but I really enjoy reading them at the time. That's kind of how I feel about contemporaries, and that's how I felt about this. But yeah, it was a pretty good book. I did enjoy it a lot, actually. I liked the characters, and they just got up to a lot of fun stuff. And then the next book is my other favorite book of this month. And one of my favorite books of the year. And it's amazing. And that is Gemina by Jake Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. This is the second book to the Illuminae Files, and oh my god, I was just not expecting this book. It's completely different characters from the second one, and it's at a different place, but it's completely connected to the first book. These two stories get connected. But this is literally the most fun, interesting, heavy book there could be, because not only is it taking place in space with really attractive, fit main characters, one who's in the cartel and one whose dad runs the spaceship, and she's a spoiled rich girl, but her dad also taught her a lot about war strategy and fighting. There's also an invasion of this place, and there's I don't want to give anything away, but I want to. Okay, I don't think I will be. There is literally a team of a containment team of 24 trained assassins sent on this ship to capture it and to do something so that another team can come in. So they have to capture everyone on the ship and keep them under control while doing things. And not only is there trained assassins, there's also these alien parasites that are horrifying. So this book is literally a kick-ass action movie, but it's more than that because the plot is so intricate and it's so good. And I don't know if you guys have read Illuminae, but it's all multimedia, so it's really interesting to read, and there's so many different things that happen in this book. One of my favorite things, might I add, without trying to give anything away, is it shows the pictures and names of all of the trained assassins, and throughout the book you'll occasionally see it with some X's through people, and I thought that was so good. This book is so good. It's amazing, and I really need to read the last one because, oh my god, like, that book honestly was probably one of the best books I've ever read. I read it in one sitting without putting it down. Couldn't stop. Amazing. And then I finally finished Shot, Stabbed, and Poisoned, A Story of Assassination Through the Ages by Jonathan J. Moreau. I've been reading this book just for pleasure whenever I feel like picking it up. And I finally finished it this month, actually yesterday, and I just really enjoyed it. It's so interesting. If you like history, I would really recommend picking up this book, because basically is what it talks about is it takes assassinations and the impacts they had on history, because a lot of assassinations completely changed the way things function today. Like Julius Caesar, little did you know, it was Rome was a democracy before he died. But after he died, it actually led to the emperors being a thing after he was killed. And we all know how important Archduke Ferdinand's death was, and it talks a lot about that. It talks about Gandhi. It talks about, oh my god, the most horrifying assassination is the last Tsar family. It's Tsar Nicholas, and like when the Russian Revolution happened, they were all brutally murdered, and like the impact it had on Russia. And it's just so interesting because these assassinations had huge impacts on the entire world, and I just really enjoyed it. I really love this book. I'm really happy I have it because I also think it's absolutely beautiful. And the last book I read this month is The Beast is an Animal by Peter Nell Arsdale. This is just a really interesting, fun read. It takes place in like I would say like it's an alternate universe, but like olden times where there were like small villages and women were being like accused of witchcraft. So it's like that sort of time period, and it's from the point of view of this little girl, and you kind of see her grow up throughout it. But there are these things called soul eaters, and these two soul eaters come and kill all of the adults in her village. And then so all the kids in the village are taken in by the next village, but because of the fear of the soul eaters, there's like this horrible, like, I don't know, it's just really upsetting. It's just really upsetting. But the people are all really horrified of soul eaters, and they're afraid of them, and also this creature called the Beast, which is like their devil, and they have the Great Shepherd, which protects them, and the Beast, which is basically like the devil and God. And this little girl kind of finds out that the Beast isn't specifically what people say, and that she's kind of the only one that really understands everything that's happening and can possibly stop it. And it's just pretty good. Like, I don't think everyone would enjoy it, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was like a fun, interesting read, and I really liked it. I feel like a lot of people don't like this book, but I do. And I can't pinpoint why people wouldn't like it if asked, but I just feel like a lot of people kind of wouldn't. But I really did enjoy it because I love books about witchcraft, and it was just so interesting to see like how fear at this time really turned people into monsters, honestly, and the things they were willing to do to like protect themselves, even though they really weren't. But this video is super long, so I'm gonna stop. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave me a like down below. I'm so happy with all the books I've read. Can you tell? Tell me what you guys have read this month. I'm super interested. And I'll see you all in my next one. Bye-bye!